Just state where you're from and your name, and that'd be good.
Andrew Nygren, I'm with the Department of Water Resources. I'm Director of Water Appropriation.
Joe Nett, Department of Water Resources. I manage surface water appropriation.
Chris Colby, Department of Water Resources.
Devin Schwint, Water Resources.
Sam DeVries, Water Resources.
Boston Bartholomew, Water Resources.
Lucas Roy, Water Resources.
Margaret Windingstad, Water Resources.
Sharon Schurmeister, Hazelton.
Jay Young, Water Resources. Sid Abraham, Water Resources.
I'm Xinhua Jia from Agriculture Biosystem Engineering, NDSU, and I do research on drainage, smart irrigation, nor is the water for data center. So if you have any questions, follow up with me. Thank you.
John Seafelt, Lemoore, North Dakota.
Jacoby Cromlech, Kidder County.
Sawyer Smith, Kidder County.
Parker Christian, Cordell, Oklahoma.
Steve Knorr, Board Member, Irrigation Association, McLean County Irrigator.
Justin Quant, Dickey Sargent Irrigation District.
Bill Sheldon, irrigator from Ray. I'm also on the Irrigation Association board, and my favorite wife, Jeannie, here beside me. So.
Spencer Esslinger, Oaks Irrigation Research Site.
Heidi Esslinger, the NDSU Oaks Irrigation Research Site.
Justin Jacobs, Agri Industries out of Williston.
Saber or Outport WR.
Collins Asantisesu, Water Resources.
Jay Myers, Colfax, North Dakota. I farm there, and then I'm also with 360 Rain.
Steve Friddle, give you a geography lesson, find out where Barton, North Dakota is. Producer newly just acquired a permit a month ago, so I'm here to learn.
I'm Lakshmi Prasad. I'm an assistant professor and extension water engineer at NDSU.
Dean Steele, Ag Engineer, NDSU. How do you want to do this?
Justin Candy. I'm also a member of the Irrigation Association board, and I work for MVI.
Lee Candy, work for MVI.
John McCrory, Lytton, North Dakota.
Mike Brandenburg, Lemoore County Irrigator, Legislator.
Brandon Sane, Linton, North Dakota.
Brian Schulich from Crete, North Dakota.
David Dahl, farming southeast North Dakota, irrigate in the Ingleville area.
Butch Schwab, southeast, Ransom County.
Eric Larson, Dickey and Lemoore counties.
Greg Schwab, Elliott, North Dakota, Ransom County.
Lauren DeWitt from Bismarck. I'm a retired irrigator from Kidder County.
Jerry Schock from Bismarck. I'm on the NDIA board.
Scott Mund, irrigator, Southeast North Dakota, vice chairman of Irrigation Association.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Real good turnout today, and we're definitely happy to have you all here. With that, we're going to jump right in. In your packet, the December 12th, 2024 minutes. If you've had time to read through them, are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Okay, moved by Scott Munn to approve. Is there a second? Okay, seconded by Jerry Shack. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Okay, the minutes are carried. The nominations and elections for the Board of Directors for 2026. If you turn the page from your minutes, you will see the current members that are on the Board of Directors. Right now, you'll see there are 12. We are allowed 13 per our bylaws, Danny. Okay, so if is anybody that would like to serve on the board or be on the board, I guess we'll raise your hand. If there isn't, I would ask for a motion to approve the 12-member board. Okay, Lauren DeWitt's moved. Is there a second? Seconded by Brian Schulich. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the 12-member board as printed, signify by saying aye. All opposed? Your board is approved. Okay, I will have Danny come up and go through the 2025 activity update.
Okay, thanks everybody. I'll just briefly highlight a couple of things. I'm not going to read the whole update to you, but I did want to highlight a couple of things from this past year that we worked on. 2025 was a legislative year, so I spent a considerable amount of time up at the Capitol working on irrigation issues. We were able to have a booth at Ag Day at the Capitol, which was a good opportunity to interact with legislators, and appreciate the board members that came up and helped staff that booth. As far as legislation goes, the two big ones for irrigation were funding within the State Water Commission budget. So there is funding available for irrigation districts that are looking to implement projects for shared works or doing planning for future development. Additionally, there is money in the State Water Commission budget to go to the Bank of North Dakota's Ag PACE program, which provides interest rate buy down for individual irrigators. So if that's something that you're interested in, please work with your local lender and let them know that you're interested in that Ag PACE program. The legislature also passed a bill providing funding for the irrigation and drainage study that we heard about this morning. So we worked with Representative Cindy Schreiber-Beck on that and continuing to work with the consultant, with the Department of Agriculture, and a lot of ag partners on that. I do want to just take a minute and thank a lot of the ag commodity groups that put in funding to help finish that study. We worked with the Water Education Foundation on a couple of tours this summer that highlighted irrigation. Steve helped host a tour down in Oaks that I think was one of the better attended tours in the history of the Water Education Foundation. We had about 80 people there in 2 buses going around looking at the various irrigation sites down in Oaks. We did finish out the statewide irrigation suitability analysis study that NDSU finished. So we got that completed. The study is on our website. Additionally, NDSU went ahead and created an interactive dashboard. So if you go to our website, you can pull that dashboard up and it allows you to kind of zoom in on the North Dakota map to the county level, and then even farther in, kind of look at what irrigation might be available in a particular area. And then it does have a lot of county statistics in there that are interactive, so you can kind of play around with it. And then we did a presentation with the North Dakota Bankers Association at their Ag Credit Conference, talking a little bit about financing for irrigation, trying to develop some of those relationships with the private financing side of things to see if we can get some more interaction there on getting favorable terms for irrigation, and appreciate Steve Knorr coming and helping do the presentation with them on that. And then we continue to work with Department of Water Resources on permit processes. I know that we'll talk a little bit more about that this afternoon. It is a high priority for the Irrigation Association to work on that. Continue to try to work with the Department of Water Resources to make sure we have a timely permit process. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions anybody has. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Danny. So with that, we have Steve Knorr. Steve's a farmer up in the Washburn area, irrigates out of the McCluskey Canal. I would ask him to come up. He's going to do just a small talk or give some information on carbon markets. We've all heard about them in the news. Steve's involved pretty heavily with it, and make sure you pick his brain as much as possible. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Danny. Obviously, thanks everybody for attending today. Good crowd. Obviously, hopefully you got back in the workshop or the trade booth area. I'm going to actually bring up here in a little bit Parker Christian with Upterra. Want to have him share a story, and I'll share it first here. But we're going to talk about carbon markets. So last year I presented on carbon intensity scores, this 45Z opportunity, which is brought about in the Inflation Reduction Act in the Biden administration. That was basically a tax credit going back to biofuel companies to incentivize their carbon sequestration. Part of that was hopefully going to come in the form of feedstock, which is the corn we grow, and hopefully a value driven back to us. Where are we at with that today? It did make it into the big beautiful bill, so it got passed into the big beautiful bill. We were waiting on the DOE, Department of Energy, and Treasury to come up with methodology and how the tax credits were going to go back to the biofuel companies. Nothing to do with the farmer. The goal was the biofuel companies would work with us, the farmer, on the feedstock, the corn we grow, for us to produce lower carbon grain. And at the end of the day, here's where we're at. The government's slow. Things haven't come as fast as we wanted. We did get some good news, the fact that they extended the tax credit to 2029. So it starts in January 1st of 2025, this last year. So your production in 24 would have qualified, and all the way up to 2029, they extended it, okay? They also basically said, okay, we're going to look at a mass balance approach or a book and claim. And the difference between those two is mass balance, the grain had to go direct to the ethanol plant. And a book and claim meant that, guess what? I could produce a certificate or a biofeedstock report, and I could sell that certificate to any participating ethanol plant, really anywhere in the country. So we've been advocating for the mass balance, or excuse me, the book and claim approach, not the mass balance. So as you're talking to your legislators, et cetera, keep pushing the book and claim. That's what we'd like to see. Allows free and fair market ability for any corn farmer to participate in it. If I'm in an ethanol market, guess what? It works for me in a mass balance. It doesn't work for me if I'm selling my grain to the feed yard. So like I say, not where we want to be at in the carbon intensity on the 45Z opportunity. We were hoping here in end of Q4, we'd have some of the methodology done, and DOE and USDA all coming in line and saying this is what the program is going to be. We think it's going to be here in Q4. Q1, we're hoping to get that methodology done, and we can get this program growing. Obviously, as you probably guys saw yesterday, Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Ag, announced the regenerative program with the MAHA movement, $700 million in regenerative ag. Obviously, that's part of this 45Z and carbon intensity score. So questions, like I say, I'm going to be around. We've got a booth in the back in the exhibit hall. But I want to give some time to a guy here, Parker Christian with Upterra, and we'll cue a video here. But I believe we as irrigators, and I learned this last night, 54% of diverted water in our state, guess what is in this room, are irrigators. And that blew me away last night. I'm like, wow, there's 54% of the diverted water. So we beat municipalities, rural water. We're consuming a lot of water, and there's not a lot of irrigation development in North Dakota. And we're advocating for more irrigation development. So how do we go further with our water? And that's a story that we're going to share here, or Parker's going to share. How do we make our water go further? But along with not only going further in use, how does it bring it to benefit to us as farmers? So I guess we'll cue that video. Go ahead. Parker, come on up. Parker Christian with Upterra. Parker, you got about 10 minutes. 15 minutes? What do we got, Danny?
TerraFlow is a very simple and yet very effective piece of equipment.
Flow device is about a 30-inch long piece of pipe. As it flows through that, the water gets organized and enhanced.
And it's remarkable what comes out the other end. We are putting that water through as many twists and turns as is physically possible. It creates that vortexing that happens in the atmosphere during rain. The water is more hydrating and it has less surface tension. And so it moves more efficiently in the soil and in plants, leading to healthier fields and crops.
And that's where our frequency arrays come in.
So the frequency arrays have a set of frequencies built right into the device. At Upterra, we identify those frequencies and then we digitize them. And the farmer chooses from that set of frequencies for the kind of crops that they are farming.
Our frequency arrays energize that water and imprint it with these frequency sets that we have in our library, such as nitrogen, phosphate, potassium. It's hard to comprehend, but I'm here to tell you I've seen it work for 3 years solid. It's amazing. All right, thank you.
This technology, the challenge for us as group producers is vetting technology. This was vetted on my farm. So I've got personal testimony. So what he's about to share is validated in North Dakota on my farm in 2025. Parker, take it away.
Well, first off, thank you very much, Steve. North Dakota's great. You're all very hospitable folks. You could have made the weather a little nicer, but anyway, you've been great, and I appreciate your hospitality and the opportunity to get to talk to you. Thank you very much. So, Water Reimagined. We look at a lot of things in ag, soils, plants, all these things. Well, the number one input on your crop, whether it be rain-fed or irrigation, is water. So it's time somebody really do something with it. And that's what we're here for. Our mission's to improve soil health, reduce the amount of water it takes to grow your crop, and do that all while making you more money. I started with this company as an agronomist doing field trial work roughly 5 years ago. And now we're on 40,000 acres from Texas to now I can really say Canada, and it's a really nice feeling. But most of that growth right there has been from customers that have retained us and expanded us on their farms. And we started, you can see there in the Texas Panhandle, and primarily because they're out of water in the Ogallala Aquifer. It's a very big feed deficit area. They pull hard on their farms and pull hard on their water. So we want to do something good. We went to work right there, and it's near and dear to my heart to try to make this water go further and last longer for our children and grandchildren, and really a way of life and a whole culture in that area. Now the technology. So it's a really simple install and a simple technology that's called our TerraFlow device. Water gets organized as it flows through there. This is plumbed into your, say, mostly pivots. We work on all kinds of irrigation, but you plumb this in. It's much like plumbing in a check valve. It takes 2 watts of power. As water flows through that, the water molecules, it's aligned, structured, organized. And we're trying to do what God does perfectly, and that's create rain. You've all seen how much better your crop responds to rain than an irrigation event. I've seen that my whole life and never really been able to explain it. I looked at it from fertility standpoint because that's what I did with self-fertilizer, but those didn't quite answer the questions. Well, now I know. Then we have these sets of coils in there that further enhance that structuring, as well as putting those frequency sets in there that the biology and the soil and the plant all need. And then we overlay all that with a transmission program called TerraNet over the top of that. So we are feeding your field frequency sets with soil health and other type properties in your farm 24/7. So even if you don't have to irrigate, we're still working on your farm. And that's the goal. We want to keep those pivots running less. It costs money. We want to help you reduce the amount you're having to spend. So one thing we've seen, we've been in this 5 years now, and really getting traction on soil health. It's a benefit I didn't quite expect to see, but we're seeing soil trends. I don't know if you're familiar with the Haney test, but we've taken a lot of those over 2 years on a bunch of farms, and we're seeing these soil trends of increased microbiology activity, increased releases of carbon, increased releases of nutrients in there. And it's nice to see those numbers because I've been seeing the soil tilth, root development, plant health, all these things increase over time. And it's really nice to see what we're seeing in the field and the effects we're seeing in the field be backed up by some really good data and some really intense scientists that have been skeptical but are on board with us now to help prove what we're doing. But the point here is the more we're on your farm, the longer, the better we've become in creating healthier soils, which makes your water more efficient, your fertility. And Steve has some really nice data to support that as well locally. So just what I was saying, we're improving soils. We improve infiltration rates by 25% on average. And we've done this. We've got several trial fields, treatment control scenarios. Some fields we split. And we spend a lot of time with research agronomists that are on staff proving this out. And we have a lot of good partnerships to help us prove these things. But not only are we increasing the infiltration rate of your irrigation water, we're also increasing the infiltration rate of your rainwater. And that's a really big thing. So again, we want you to run your pivot less. I'm not even sure what this better efficiency with the water. So shallow soil layers. We use permanent moisture probes, and we have 12 treatment control scenarios. We're going on 3 years that we've come up with soil trends. 100% of the time, we're increasing holding capacities in that top 20 inches of the soil. I have a gentleman, a PhD gentleman that studies soil moisture and probes, and he had first told me it was a bunch of bull. And now I got to sit into a meeting he presented at, and he's like, I don't know how they're doing it, but it's like Upterra is increasing organic matter in soils without increasing organic matter. The only time I've seen soils infiltrate this quickly and hold that much moisture in the top are on really high organic matter soils. And where we're talking, the organic matters are, 1% and less on a lot of farms. Big thing we do, and because where we are, salinity is a huge problem for us. And one thing we've seen, and partly it's because of what our farmers have told us, we see these huge yield increases where our sodium levels are really high on the farm. You can see physically on top of the ground that you aren't accumulating these salt bands like you do on the fields that we were right there with. And that's because we are helping leach those salts away. And we've done some third-party studies to prove that and show that. Again, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but we have a booth out here. We can come talk to us about these things. These are just pictures that I've taken all over the country, showing the same thing time and time again. And that's usually second year after we've been treating, I see at least a growth stage ahead in corn up to about 8 to 10 leaf. We're speeding that up. And then I also see a earlier development and maturity in the kernel as well. Improved root mass, feeder roots, every time we see that. That corn there has a zero seed treatment or in-furrow fertility or any products on it. That is all just Upterra. And that's on one of my original fields. We're on 4 years there. We do a lot of cotton in my country and peanuts, and you guys don't care much about that, but the corn and bean yields are phenomenal. Those soybean yield, 36% yield boost. I believe that was in the Arkansas River Valley where we had some extremely tough gumbo soils with compaction problems, and we have alleviated compaction problems. It's amazing to me what we can do with frequency and water on soil tilth. I had a guy at Greeley, Colorado. His tractor broke down while he was ripping the field. His corn silage, I went in there with my sharpshooter, dug in those silage truck tracks. I could get my sharpshooter in the ground. I went to the field right next to it, same kind of harvest. I could not even get my shovel in the ground there, and I was blown away. I mean, I'm a big believer in what we're doing, but it continually surprises me. So I'm starting to make some recommendations because I'm looking at probe data, routing development, and where the water's going following that. And I'm starting to make recommendations when you apply our technology and we can come help you and look in your field of parking your ripper. I don't like ripping soils. It's a costly program, and it's not really terribly effective all the time. Now, no, somebody will argue with me, but anyway, that's just what we're seeing, and that's a value we're bringing. So why up, Tara? Just all the stuff I just told you. And please come see us at the booth. I'll be over here for the rest of the afternoon and evening. And again, I really appreciate Steve's partnership and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Parker. Once again, we're going to get into discussion on water permits and how we get more water permits. There is a fight for water in this country, and it's going to get worse and worse every year. What are the tools in the toolbox? Not just for water allocation, but for us to make a living irrigating farm tough ground. What I saw this year was a reduction in sodium. I've been fighting sodium on my farm for the last 5 years. I had to figure something out. It was a dramatic difference this year by using this device, so there's proof to it. Yield response, water holding capacity, water infiltration, all those things Parker talked about, I saw. Something we need to take a look at, because if we can save 20, 30%, even 10% water use, guess what? That opens the door for potentially more permits, right? And we're not going to get held back like they did in Idaho when they say, hey, we're out of water, Mr. Potato Farmer. And guess what? You got the 2, 3, 4, 5,000. I'm not a potato farmer anymore, Brian, but what happens when that happens here in North Dakota? So let's get prepared. Look at this technology. Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
All right, Steve Parker, thank you for that. Okay, so with that, Danny went through the 25 work plan, and I want to thank Danny and Annika up front here and Julie for everything they put together for this convention. You know, a lot of work goes into it, and well, they bring it all together. So let's give them a round of applause. With that being said, I'd like to, when it comes to new business topics for a 2026 work plan, if you have ideas, thoughts, we'd like to hear them. You know, we talk about it. Danny and I talk about it quite a bit, but you know, we got, when it comes to the project pumping power, Danny has lined up a meeting with, as you all know, Andrea Travanek moved on to DC. With her and former Governor Burgum in the Department of the Interior, we all think that we have an in, right? And we hope that's the case. But when it comes to project pumping power, Andrea and former Governor Burgum are very up on it. We don't have to bring them up to speed. So we will be meeting with her, the week of Christmas, I believe, via Zoom to try to move that forward. We believe they have the ability to do it. And that is going to be, it's been a priority for many a year. We have that in Missouri. For those of you that maybe caught the presentation of the Upper Missouri, I mean, that's 10,000 CFS that North Dakota adds to that river system, and we're not tapping it like we should. There's projects being talked about, but we need to use it. We need to get it inland. We need to get it where it needs to be. So with that, does anybody have ideas for a work plan? Things that the Irrigation Association can work on. At the end of the day, we need to bring value. We need to bring value to everybody here. Irrigation is getting talked about a lot. I think Representative Brandenburg can attest to that. You know, with the studies that were appropriated to get done, it's a hot topic. I know Andrew and his team will talk about the permitting process. I know it's a frustration for a lot of us. I've heard it from all over the state, and they'll address that this afternoon and what they're doing. But does anybody have ideas when it comes to a 26 work plan? One thing, the technology part of it, what we're doing, what Steve's got going on up north, that's our job, folks. We got to figure it out at the farm level. We have to start doing things, and we're assuming it's going to get us more permits. We don't know that. We don't know that. But we have to start using this resource in a better way. We talked about the different technologies that can be implemented. You have the representative from Rain 360 here. Another tool that gets talked about a lot that still needs a water permit. And how does that look down the road? Bank of North Dakota has asked us, well, should we fund those Rain 360s? They can be moved. Well, it's a question that needs to be asked and answered. So there's a lot of things going on, but what more could the Irrigation Association be doing to bring value to your farm? And don't be afraid to put your hand up and say it. Go ahead, Scott.
What we need from the association is, we need more input like Steve's asking for from users out there. We're trying to figure out where to go with the board, and it's a funding thing that, we lost some of our funding for next year. So we're going to be limited on that, but what do producers want to see from us as board members? What do they want us to be looking at? All I hear about in my area is water permits, water permits, water permits, water permits. But there's got to be more to it than that. There's a lot of technology that has been adapted and being adapted. So is that where everyone wants us to go, or what? I guess we're looking for ideas.
Yeah, looking for ideas and looking for memberships. I see, it's nice to see people that I haven't seen here before. We need to get involved. Otherwise, we ask the question, what value do we bring as an association? That's different for everybody. But
Everyone in this room knows someone that could be a member that's not.
That's a fact.
And David Dahl, Southeast North Dakota. Things I'd like to see is efficiency comparisons from, with technology nowadays to compared when in our area pivots were put up in the 70s, and how much more efficient we are with the water. Besides that, in the 90s, we got wet. We're not using near the, water now than we did then. So could that open up more, more potential for water? And then just to kind of piggyback on that, we've got some irrigators that, like, for instance, this year we never even ran, and I've got gravel that's 30 feet away from the well, and they won't let me double my acres and just use half the water on them acres. So I'm still allowed the same amount of water. I wish there was something that could be a study done to find out how much more water should be available because of that.
Right. Yeah, good point. And Andrew will be addressing that stuff this afternoon. I think those are a couple of the questions that have been asked. And I think, Andrew, I'm assuming you will be able to tackle them. So, and it's not always going to be the answer we want to hear, right? But it's what we have to deal with. And I just think we as farmers have to challenge ourselves to do what we can do, and I guess to me, it's technology. It has to be based on science and data if we want to move things forward. And I've heard that from Director Haas too, science and data. has got to back things up. Anything else?
Thank you, Steve. One of the issues that we've had, and now I know Danny and I and Steve met with the Bank of North Dakota, trying to convince these people that there's more than a 7-year lifespan to a pivot. It just seems like, when you try to set up a pivot for a 7-year payback, it's not going to work. And we need to convince these people, these bankers, that they'll last 30 years if they're taken care of. Technology will put them out of date before they wear out. The first one I had was an old steel wheel thing that took a lot of maintenance, but it watered 28 crops. So somehow we need to work as a group. And I know Danny and the staff have done quite a bit, but we need to convince these bankers that let's go more than 7 years. Let's look at 15 or 20 years. Then they pay for themselves.
Financially, is there anybody in the room that financially you have a water permit available, but you can't do it because of the financial part of it, even with the interest buy down through the Bank of North Dakota or through an irrigation district? So that's not a holdup then. Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Steve, I'm Brian Schulich again from the southeast part of the state, Sargent County and Dickey County area. I think some of this tile water that we are putting in the legal drains and letting go away has an opportunity that we could use for irrigation. I think, some of my tile pumps run just about all summer now. Well, if we specifically would have installed them just a couple feet deeper, basically a horizontal well, I think it's shallow enough that it would not affect any existing wells. I think there's some water supply there that would be available for us to use for irrigation that we are not using at this point.
Yeah, good point, Brian. Down in the Oaks area, there are a few farmers that are using tile water right now. And we know of one that's using the Rain 360 with tile water, and it's working. He was part of the water tour this summer, and he threw out figures of what it's doing for his farm. Doesn't have a water permit or a water right, but they have to apply for a temporary permit every year, of which the DWR is granting them. And they will grant them for tile water for irrigation use. The other farmer down in the area that I know of is using a center pivot. He's nozzled for 400 gallons a minute. With regular rainfall, he doesn't run out of water. He does not have a retention pond. He is using his tile for his holding capacity, and it's working. If we don't get rain, an inch a month, he will run out of water. But he knows that. He put the infrastructure in, and he's pulling nice crops off there. Will potato farmers come in there or onion farmers? Probably not, because it's not guaranteed. But it is working, and you just got to get innovative. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is Xinhua Jia, and some of you probably have visited the field that I have been working on probably for 15 years in Steve Miller's farm in Richland County. So we did a sub-irrigation with the same drainage structure. So I summarize from that study that the water quality from a drainage water is a concern. So you need to be very careful about the water. And also when you use that water for irrigation, especially when you, let's say, work with the soybean, you have to make sure that your water has capped below certain levels, because when the water is really shallow, that can create additional problems. So we do have several publications from that study, and if you need any more information, because I also did another study in North Moorhead in Minnesota, it's also the We use the surface drainage water. Well, it's combined surface and subsurface drainage water for irrigation, but the design is different than the one at Fairmount. So I would say that we have some experience on that if you ever need help. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. It's we talk about using the tile water for irrigation, but the water quality is a thing. I mean, you heard it from Steve Knorr earlier. And it sounds like that maybe Upterra might be something that you should look into. But with that, there's a lot of studies that NDSU does. I know Dean Steele over here has done with drops, on your irrigation systems. Tap into those things. I mean, they're there for us to use. And Dean, I think you did that study, I don't know, 3-4 years ago with the different lengths of drops. And it's very useful information. But NDSU has a lot of that type of stuff that a guy can tap into to help your farm out. Anything else? Any other thoughts? So with that, then Danny and her team are always looking for places for water tours. If you have an idea, if you have a place where can be a learning thing for people, to bring value once again to irrigation, to help, don't hesitate to reach out to them. They're always looking for places to go. And I think that's about it. So if anybody else, one more thing, Danny's got a whole bunch of membership. Okay, folks, we have to have more members. Okay, with the financial cuts and whatnot, the irrigation has seen, we got to have more members. You got to recruit people in your area. They're irrigators. It's $100 a year to be a member. To keep doing the things we're doing, we got to keep our membership up, and we've got to increase. And we got to get people involved. Young folk, I don't care, but we got to get people involved, and do not be afraid to speak up. That's what we need. We need to keep talking about it. Okay, so Daniel, there'll be a bunch of membership cards back there. So are we, is there anything else? Does anybody have anything else to come before this meeting? We'll put them up here. Come up and grab a couple, grab a handful, take them back home and hand them out, if you would. We need more members. Yes, it is. ndwater.org. Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll take 5-10 minute, no more than 10-minute break. Let's come right back in here and we'll start our meeting. Meeting adjourned.